Good morning. Honored to be with you here representing the Boston Consulting Group and sharing with you some of the results from our research and also some of my academic work. I am a professor also in the Paris Institute of Political Science. There is a leapfrogging opportunity for Africa if we look at the technological capabilities. Benefiting from all the digital opportunities, we can leapfrog what it took 20 or 15 years in China or India. I would like to highlight something a bit similar in terms of leapfrogging, not in terms of technology, but in terms of organization. You know, the way we perform job, manage work, organize work. What are the lessons that we can draw? And in these lessons, be careful about what is wrong. You know, I am leading the Institute for Organization at BCG. It's a global role, and every day I receive a lot of requests from colleagues working in Russia with Russian companies, in Brazil, in India, in China, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, or in Casablanca, or in South Africa. And very often I am surprised by the questions they ask me. You know, what they ask me is, for example, what is the maximum number of dimensions in a matrix organization? And I don't know. I have no clue. Is it 5? Is it 34? Before asking me for a solution, what is the problem? What is it that they want to do better? Speed to the market, innovation, as Shiv was saying, productivity, cost-cutting, growth, it depends. And you know, this is what I would like to spend some time together, making sure that trying to learn from the best practices, and we need to learn from best practices, you know, to grow the value chain, as you were saying, to better benefit from our natural resources. But in sharing, in learning best practices, let's be careful, because there is a poisoned seed in these best practices. Let's avoid them. That is the real challenge for leadership and organizations. To start with, I would like, you know, this is the result of a survey. Every year, the Conference Board, which is a US polling institute, asks about 600 to 800 CEOs of global companies around the world about their biggest challenges. What are your 10 most burning nightmares? Business confidence, financial risk, including volatility and liquidity, improving productivity, consistent execution of strategy by top management, sustained and steady top-line growth, global economic performance. You know, we are in a crisis, but is it the middle or is the worst in front of us? Excellence in execution, speed, flexibility, adaptability to change, customer loyalty, customer retention, and profit growth. Now, what do you think is the top one of these concerns? The one that is the most frequently mentioned by CEOs. Excellence in execution is the number one concern of CEOs. And consistent execution of strategy by top management is the number two, as a gentleman said. Now, it is very surprising, because you would expect the CEO to have nightmares about things that are a bit more sexy than just execution. You know, innovation, business model innovation, adaptability, creativity. But you know what is execution? Execution is basically, we used to do A, now I would like you to do B, full stop, do B. I don't ask you to be clever, smart, intelligent, creative, just do B. Something as apparently simple as execution, getting things done, has become the number one nightmare of CEOs. Why? of global companies, not just a startup trying to, of course, get things done. So, we have tried to understand the root cause for this. And we have found the root cause. Basically, the root cause is the way organizations have tried to adapt to the new environment. And what have they done, organizations? Basically, they have done what we learned at school, in business schools, in universities. How to organize depends on our strategy. What is our strategy? What are our key success factors, our requirements? And from these, remember, Alfred Chandler, 1962, we derived the structures, the processes, the systems, from strategy to organization. And whenever there is a specific requirement, we create a specific structure, process, system to handle these requirements. That was fine when the world was simple. In the good old days of Michael Porter, the Harvard Business School professor who was finishing his PhD thesis in 1973 and wrote on it in 1980s, and in which he was telling what? There are two ways to compete. Either you compete on cost, you do the same as everybody but cheaper, or you compete on differentiation, quality. You do something unique. If you compete on cost, you need structure, processes, systems that minimize cost. Functional organization that maximize economies of scale, standardization, communalities, reusability. If you compete on differentiation, geographic differentiation, you will have geographic structure. If you compete on the differentiation of your product to have unique quality, you will have your structures per product line. Everything was great. The problem started in the late 80s, because in the late 80s, most companies lost the ability to choose between cost and quality. They had to do both. It was the beginning of the bipolar world you were talking about. You know, if you go to buy a car, you go to the car dealer, show me your cars. And suppose the car dealer tells you, look, I have to tell you that we have a cost strategy. So our cars are quite cheap, but not really reliable. If I were you, I would buy 2 of them to always have a backup. Huh? It doesn't work. So we need cost and quality. Therefore, we created organizations that allow for the benefits of a functional organization and project focus. It is called the matrix. But life became already more complicated in the matrix. But that was nothing compared to the nightmare of the last 10 years, because there were more and more requirements. Global consistency, local responsiveness, innovation, efficiency. And these requirements are contradictory, because innovation means doing something we have never done. Efficiency means doing the same thing for the 10th time. Speed, reliability, they are contradictory. Reliability takes control at the expense of speed. That's basically the new business environment. More and more requirements that are contradicting each other. To which companies respond by applying the good old lessons of defining dedicated structure, processes, systems, scorecards, metrics, the center, the regions, the countries, the hubs, the clusters, the middle office, the committees, the task, basically. Try to face complexity on the left with complicatedness on the right. Huh? And it is exactly what Shiv was talking about. Huh? We deal with more complexity, and here we have no choice. We cannot say to customers, look, you have to be reasonable. Do you want cost or quality? You know, we are an airline, we compete on speed. We take off very fast, but we don't always land, you know. It doesn't work. On the left, we have no choice. On the right, we have a lot of choices. Because in these organizations, the complicated organization, people spend 40% of their time writing reports. Because they have to report on so many KPIs, metrics, scorecards. They spend 30% of their time writing reports. because they have to, they spend 40% of their time writing reports and they spend 30% of their time in meetings because they have to coordinate with so many other functions. In some European automotive companies, people have 52 hours of meeting a week. And the legal working time in the week is 35 hours. Huh? So how much is left to be with their teams when I have 40% of my time writing reports, forecast, planning, monitoring, retro planning, 30% of my time on average in meetings. At best, I have 30% left with my teams. Talking about leadership, management. Therefore, the teams are poorly managed. They don't receive the right input, the right guidance, the right priorities. They don't work on the right problems. So they have to do, undo, and redo. In this kind of organization, people spend on average 60% of their time wasting their time. You know, it's not surprising that productivity is crawling in most mature economies. When people spend 60% of their time wasting their time, 40% of their time writing reports for managers, and 30% of their time in meetings. You know, productivity used to grow in the 15 largest European economies by 5% per annum in the 50s, 60s, early 70s. From 73 to 83, 3% per annum. From 83 to 95, 2% per annum. Since 1995, 1% per annum. Constant decline in productivity improvement. Why? Not a surprise. There is, you know, this is the engineering division of an automotive company. It is a 5-dimension matrix. Just the engineering, people who design the cars. Because they are organized by model, segment, technology, manufacturing site, and geography. If you open any cell of the matrix, you find another 5-dimensional matrix. So it is a 25-dimensional matrix. Because on top of the 5 dimensions, you have a unit in charge of coordinating engineers on cost. Another unit in charge of coordinating engineers on the weight of the car, on the aerodynamics, on the noise, on the safety on the street, on the petrol consumption. So, you know, we talk about leadership. We talk about getting things done. It is impossible to execute in this complicated organization. What is the scene? Basically, the scene is that when we want something to get done, we create a dedicated structure. Like that, I know who is accountable. Let me explain. 3 years ago, there was a new requirement that emerged on the market. Beyond cost, petrol consumption, safety, it is the length of the warranty period. For how long is that car warranted? You know, Kia, the South Korean manufacturer, offers a 7-year warranty period. This company was able to offer only 1 to 2 years. Not enough. We have to enlarge the warranty period to remain competitive. What does it take? Well, we have to make sure that our car is easy to repair. We don't need to remove the engine to access the lights. Because if you have to remove the engine to access the light, the car will have to stay 3 days at the garage instead of 2 hours. And the warranty budget will explode. So what is the new requirement? The new key success factor? Repairability of the car. Making sure that it is easy to repair. If I want repairability of the car, what is the solution? I need somebody accountable for repairability. Therefore, remember, from requirement to structure, processes, systems, what did they do? They created a Mr. Repairability. A new structure, Mr. Repairability. What did he do, Mr. Repairability? He created a repairability process. This is how you are going to make sure that the cars you design are easy to repair. Then he created a repairability metric to measure the repairability of the car they are designing. I want people to be accountable. And after you have a metric, what is the next step? What's the point in having a metric if there is not the test? Of course, they did the test. I totally agree. That was part of the process. You know, after the last is a test. But you have a metric, you know, to measure the car you have designed. We have evaluated its reparability. It is 12 out of 20. This is your mark. What is the next step? What's the point in having a metric if we don't have an incentive? He created a reparability incentive. What's the point in measuring if we don't have the carrot or the stick? Now, the reparability metric, the reparability incentive, what difference did it make for these design engineers? What percentage of their salary is variable? They are not investment bankers. It is not 10,000%, it is 17%. But 17% is already a lot for design engineers. Remember, they have 26 KPIs now. If you divide 17% by 26 KPIs, what difference does it make? 0.6%. If you have the best grade possible. What difference does it make 0.6% of variable compensation in these people's behavior? We can simplify 0. No impact, and the cars were still very difficult to repair. They were not able to enlarge the warranty period. But what a cost to achieve 0 impact? Mr. Reparability, reparability process, reparability metric, reparability evaluation, coordination with the 25 other evaluators to have 0 impact. This is, again, trying to deal with complexity, with complicatedness. And this is, for us, the poisoned seed that you have in most best practices. This idea that accountability, getting things done, requires a dedicated structure, process, system, metrics, incentive to have alignment. There are other ways to deal with complexity. What are these ways? Basically, it is based on organizational capital, developing our organizational capital. I have another word to describe what I will tell you about. Remember, Shiv said, we need to simplify complexity. It is what we call smart simplicity. You know, how can we deal with complexity by simplifying, but of course not simplifying in a naive way, in a smart way. Smart simplicity. What is smart simplicity about? What is organizational capital to deal with complexity about? It is not about the structure. It is not about the skeleton. It is about the nervous system of the nervous system. To deal with complexity, we need intelligence. Nervous system. What does it consist of? Cooperation, working together, not in silos, engagement. So leadership, to simplify, is making sure that management adds value. And you know how management adds value? There are books, encyclopedia about it. Let's keep it pragmatic. Why do we need managers? Why do we need managers? We need managers to make people do what people would not spontaneously do. Because if people spontaneously do what they need to do, we don't need managers. So ask yourself, whenever you create a management role, what is it supposed to make people do that people would not spontaneously do? And usually it takes 4 to 7 bullet points to answer this question. It is not a 5-page job description. 4 to 7 bullet points. And then the next question is, now, do they have the skills, the power, the information, the decision rights, the autonomy to play that role? So define the value-adding role of your managers. What are they supposed to make their teams do that the teams would not spontaneously do? Think in terms of the problem. What is the problem that requires to create a management role? because there are things that people would not spontaneously do. And second, how can I make sure that my managers have the information, decision rights, power, skills to play that role? The second element is cooperation. Cooperation is basically working, it's not liking each other. Let me explain what it is about. It is not about interfaces. You know, in many companies, let's take banks. In banks, usually you have a problem between the front office, the branches, and the back office. People in charge of systems, IT, standardization. There is a problem because the branch, the front office needs to customize, and the back office needs to standardize. Very often there is a problem. Yes, but we have no choice. We need both customization and standardization because we need cost and quality. When you have a problem between the back office and the front office, what is the solution in many banks? They apply, again, the good old approach, structure, processes, systems. They create a new structure, the middle office. So what happens 2 years later? Now I have two problems. Between the back office and the middle office, and between the middle office and the front office. Plus, I have to pay for the middle office. This is not cooperation. Cooperation is removing the middle office and having direct face-to-face cooperation between the back and the front office. Again, smart simplicity. Engagement, value-adding execution. You see, we have added value-adding in execution. Engagement is to add value as we execute. There is no process on earth that creates value if people just follow the process with full discipline without adding value. You know, to illustrate this, think about air traffic controllers. You know how they go on strike, air traffic controllers? They don't cross their arms, read the newspaper, watching planes crash from time to time. How do they go on strike? They follow the process. They apply 100% of the rules. And when people apply 100% of the rules, no plane can take off. People need to use their intelligence to go for the spirit of the rule, not just the letter of the rule, to take into account the situation. But this is not in the rule. It takes people to be engaged. The most important of these smart rules is cooperation. You know, because leaders, whatever their individual qualities, they will add less value if they work in silos, if they don't cooperate. Engagement declines when there is no cooperation. You know, I know that I depend on others for my job, but they don't cooperate with me. What do? I disengage, because I know in advance I will not make it. The most important is cooperation. The most important elements of organizational capital is cooperation. That relates to trust, by the way. Trusting. But of course, trust cannot be taken for granted. You know, if we decree now, from now on, we trust each other. It's like in 50% of cases, I will be right, in the other, I will be wrong. So we cannot decree trust. We have to create the conditions for trust. And it is the role of leadership also to create the conditions for trust. And for this, they need to cooperate. So the most important is cooperation, and cooperation can create trust. Trust is not a prerequisite for cooperation. Otherwise, cooperation will never happen, because people are not stupid. Let's trust each other now. I will see if I can trust you. Let's wait and see. You see, these things cannot be decreed. We can decree the new structure, we can decree the middle office, we can decree job descriptions, but leadership cannot be decreed. I am a great leader. We will see. Now we trust. We will see. So, your role as leaders will be to create the conditions for leadership, cooperation, and engagement to happen. Let's take a collective sport. the relay race. 4 runners in each team passing the baton to each other over 400 meters. Those who carry the baton are slower, but their baton is faster. That is an interesting challenge in terms of complexity. Those who carry the baton are slower, but their baton is faster. Cooperation is the miracle that solves this complexity. Now, we are talking about the war for talents, the need to have the right talents. And everybody is waging the war for talents. And there is a talent shortage. Because we don't leverage organizational capital enough. We concentrate on human capital, and we forget about the organizational capital, the miracles that people can achieve when they cooperate. Now, why is it that this miracle does not happen so often? Because of the poisoned seeds I was telling you about. Structure, processes, systems, metrics, incentives. The root of this is what? The scorecard, measurement. We need to measure. If I want people to be accountable, I need to tell them what to do, how to do it, measure, and incentive. What will I do? I will maximize what can be measured. I will maximize my individual speed. I will put all my blood in my legs. But if all my blood is in my legs, there will be no blood enough in my brain, in my throat to shout, in my eyes to see the hand, and in my arm to pass the baton. You know, we have a finite quantity of blood. The question is, where do we put it? In a way that protects us to maximize our measurable metrics, or in a way that benefits to the team. Look at, you know, the French journalists. When the French team won, they all congratulated the 4th runner, Christine Aron. They said she was at her best, like in Budapest, you know, even making rhymes. Fantastic, you know. Christine Aron at her best, like in Budapest. They forgot the 3rd runner. Because I spoke to Christine Aron, the 4th one. She said, no, the one who made a difference is the 3rd one. The way she passed me the baton. And we go to the 3rd runner, Sylviane Félix. But you were not very fast. Ah, but you see, I had kept blood in my brain, in my throat, in my arm. Prove it. Prove it. Whenever we cooperate, we cannot prove that we have cooperated. Whenever we can prove that we have cooperated, it is because we have not cooperated. When we have individual accountabilities, metrics, KPIs, incentives, we need them, but let's use them in a smart way. And you know what happens when there is little cooperation? We need more resources, more of everything, more time, like the US team, more inventories. When manufacturing and product and supply chain and procurement do not cooperate, we need more inventories, more stock, more teams, more people. Like at home, when we don't cooperate with our wife, we need 2 TVs. Make people who don't cooperate bear the blame. Bear the cost. You know, we are working with the CEO of Lego at the moment, the toy company, Lego, and he has applied it to his own management in a smart way. Basically, he says, blame is not for failure, but for failing to help or ask for help. I will not blame you if you fail in your sales forecast. I will blame you if you failed to help or ask for help. It changes everything. Suddenly, it is in my interest to become transparent about my own weaknesses, threats. I will not be blamed if I fail, but if I fail to help or ask for help. You maximize the organizational capital when you do that. Thank you.